Okay, so I decided to go all the way back to where we first met. We did meet in a bar. We were hanging out quite a bit to start with. Within the second or third time of us hanging out, he did give me a little more background story on some of his family members. The particular ones was the ones who were living with him, his brother and his wife, um, and their situation. A couple things he did share with me was that his sister-in-law was struggling with drug addiction, which is perfectly fine. That's not my problem. But let me know that she was struggling with that and she's trying to overcome it. He also shared that really weird, she would go for coffee and she would be gone for 3 to 4 hours at a time. Nobody knows where she went. She would just disappear, wouldn't answer her phone, and then just show up with coffee that's super cold that she had bought hours prior to. Um, so with that, I spent quite a bit of time at his house at first. One of the times, shortly after leaving, I got a call stating, hey, my sister in law said that you took her wallet. Do you have it? And I was like, huh, that's weird. No, I never took her wallet, nor would I take her wallet, nor was I ever alone at any point in the house for me to be able to take her wallet. Nevertheless, she was sticking hard to I took her wallet. Her wallet had a couple $1,000s, I believe, in different various money for bills. Don't quote me on the exact amount, but money for bills that was needed. So I kept saying, nope, I did not. So I kind of stopped going there just because for me, I was like, I'm not going to be accused of something I didn't do. So then fast forward, after that, I tried not to go to his house and only tried to have um, him come to mine. A few weeks after that, she found her wallet. It was in the back of her closet, and the only thing missing out of there was the cash. Nothing else was missing, just the cash. So not only did I steal the wallet, but somehow I got it back in her closet in the very back, and only took the cash. Whatever, to each his own. So fast forward a little bit, and then I avoided the situation because I just didn't want the drama or the chaos that was coming with it. I knew they were partying a lot and drinking almost every weekend. So I kind of like became more dormant and stayed home a little bit more and didn't have him over. With that, on nights that he would get super drunk, he would call me, or his brother would call me. One of them would call me, and they would be yelling at me, screaming at me. If I didn't answer the phone right away, which half the time I stopped answering the phone because I was like, this is getting too much for me. Then he would threaten to come over to my house, tell me I'm a whore, um, or what a bitch I am, how I'm stringing him along, when really I was just avoiding all the drama and chaos. So that continued for a couple weeks, and then I kind of just cut contact in general. Um, and then a month or two later, then we started seeing each other again. I gave him another chance. There was a wedding coming up for his brother's best friend, and they were all going. And I said, nah, I'm gonna not go. I think I'm just gonna skip that event, just not for me. So they went to the wedding, and then come to find out after the fact, a couple bridesmaids watched his sister-in-law go into the tent where the gift cards were, like the cards with money in them and whatnot. So she stole the gift cards from the wedding, um, and caused an uproar. And I was so thankful at that moment because I was like, damn, if I would have went to that wedding, I would have been the one blamed by her saying that I did it. So I skipped that whole drama. Within that, though, I was not innocent because her and I always had not a nice relationship. Um, and so one time she was going off on me, or in the background or whatever, when I was talking to Brian, not directly at me. Um, and I just let loose and I went off and I was like, you probably freaking stole your own money for your drugs, going off and doing whatever the hell you want without anybody knowing. And then I even threw in there that, hey, your kid is probably not even his. It's probably someone else's, if you even know who the dad is. Mind you, I should not have said those things. They were really dirty, really nasty, and I stooped to that level, and I shouldn't have. But at that point, I was getting nonstop accused of things that I wasn't doing, and I just had enough. Like, I just had it to my wits' end with her. Like, she was not a good person. She didn't like to take any accountability for her behavior, and it was always better to blame someone else. So then came the time when he and I decided we were really going to try to make things work. He was going to leave his family's drama, in their words, out of our relationship, and we were just going to make sure we communicate a little bit better. Within that, just within 2 days of us making that decision, he was seen more than once with another girl out and about, and a couple of my friends had seen him, and they messaged me, hey, he's here, but this isn't you. Who is this? And I called him out on it. Well, that caused a whole nother drama, saying that I was having people follow him and I didn't trust him. Like, why am I causing all this drama? Why am I having my friends, stalk him? That's illegal. And it just turned really bad again. And so I was like, okay, well, if that's what you want, I'm going to back away. I don't want to do this. It took him about a week before he came back, and he was like, you know what? You're right. I'm sorry. That's not what I want. I want to be with you. I want to do this. I want to have our families together. And so all in all, like, when he's sober, he's a good person. Like, I'm not saying he's not a good person. Sober, him is a good person. Yes, he's a little quirky. He has his views, and he does not like to see other people's point of view, especially when it comes to politics. So those were hot buttons with him, and his girls were a hot button with him. That's important, and I'll come back to that. But he never wavered to anybody else's opinion. It was always his opinion is fact. So then we decide to buy a house in Battleground, but because I had my house in Ridgefield, we weren't going to put me on anything. It was just going to be him, and I still had my house in Ridgefield. Eventually, we do sell the house. I sell my house in Ridgefield, and I paid, all of my debt off, all of his debt off, got us completely out of debt. As well as made sure the kids had a really good Christmas that year. I want to say I spent $500 to $600 on each kid, not just mine, but his, as well as I did buy each of his family members' kids gifts and baskets from Home Goods, nice, pretty expensive baskets from Home Goods. I got for each couple, so like each mom and dad, or his dad and his wife. Like, I got everybody something. I didn't leave anybody out. Mind you, we don't usually do Christmas, but I thought, hey, we're gonna have a new family. I need to get along with all these people. I put out an olive branch. Come the Christmas time, not a single one did anything for my kids, which is fine. Like, I don't expect them to. But on the flip side, I was like, okay, I just went all out. I'm trying to like start new, have new relationships, build a family, like be a part of your family. My kids would love that. They've never had that, like really wanting to move forward. But that was not the case. They didn't really see my kids as family. And it was apparent by that. So whatever, moving on. He still struggled with a lot of drinking throughout the relationship, and in the middle of COVID just turned really bad. Like, when I say really bad, like it was like his mind just switched, and he was more. So the boys and I were super uncomfortable always going to major family events because we felt like we were not accepted or not wanted there. And so we tried to not go as much as possible. I tried to have a relationship with his baby mama as well, and try to keep a good co-parenting relationship, which worked for a while until I suggested that, hey, once Brian and I are married, I would like to put the girls on my insurance so that they have dual coverage. At that moment, that is when things switched. She lost it. She went off on me, telling me I was trying to steal her kids, and they're not my daughters, they're her daughters. Like, how dare I need to stay in my lane? It was a huge ordeal. And I knew at that moment that things were going to be a little different, because now this mom feels like I'm trying to take her kids, and I know how moms get when they feel attacked. So I knew she was going to behave or do something crazy. And she did. Slowly, she started talking really bad about me to the girls. And the girls were really conflicted, because at that point, they loved me. They adored me. They always wanted to spend time with me. They would always tell their mom that they would want me to pick them up early, or we were going to go somewhere, so they would skip their visits with their mom. And so her mom was getting pretty upset about it and feeling left out. So she started saying bad things about me to the girls, which I feel like started affecting them and started changing their behavior. Especially towards me, especially the oldest. She kept wanting to start fights. At first, it was more with her dad, where they would have fights, and she would, anytime he would try to parent her or tell her no or anything, she would physically hit him, like attack him. There's like 4 or 5 different occasions where she literally bite him, punch him, kick him. So him and I having very different parenting styles, we ended up having more conflicts, because I was a pretty strict parent where he wanted to be more of their friend. And so his way of dealing with the girls when they got out of hand was just send them to their moms, and let her deal with it, which was not the right way. I felt like he needed to follow through with their behavior, hold them accountable in whatever the punishment was. But that wasn't how it went down. So because of that, we started having a lot more fights. I tried to reason with him and show him my side of the story, but he didn't want to hear it. So we went to a family event, not a family event, we went to a birthday party. One of his sister-in-law's and younger brother's kids' party. And I was super nervous going anyways, because I was like, crap, I really don't want to go. Like, I know nobody's going to want me there. But I went anyways, and I took my niece with me, because I thought, okay, maybe bringing her, it will calm things down. I didn't bring my boys. I left them. So it was just the 3 girls, him and I. So we get there. The girls all run in and they're excited, and they go in, and they go straight back. Well, and then he and I walk in, and we go in, and within 5-10 minutes of being there, my niece comes over and she goes, Auntie, I'm really uncomfortable. And I said, why? What's going on? And she tells me, well, the moment we go back there, one of the girls said, ding dong, the bitch is here. And his sister-in-law went off saying, why is that bitch here? Nobody wants her here. She needs to fucking leave. She's not welcome. All of this in front of my niece. And so she was confused. So I brought it to my husband's attention. I was like, hey, we gotta go. Like, I'm not wanted here. She made a huge scene in front of my niece. Like, it's best we just not be here. And he tells me, we're not going anywhere. You need to stop being drama, stop causing drama. It's fine. We're staying here. And at this point, I start crying. He's like, look, there you go, more drama. I was like, no, I'm at a place where I'm not wanted. It was made very clear in front of multiple people. And now you want me to put on a good face and walk in there and act like nothing was said, and act like everything is perfectly fine? That's uncomfortable for me. But he was dead set on, we were not going. We were staying for the whole thing until the end. So I sucked it up. I didn't say anything. I was just quiet. And then when we leave, he tells me, well, that's great. You just had your bitch face on the whole time. So, you just look like you were pissed off and not wanting to be there. And I said, well, I wasn't. I didn't want to be there. I wasn't rude to anybody, but no, I didn't want to be there. Your sister-in-law made it very clear in front of a group of people that I was not wanted. So what makes you think that that's comfortable for me? But he didn't care. He's like, well, in his eyes, I made it bad because I didn't look like I was having fun. Again, my fault, my problem. After that event, I said, absolutely not. I'm not going into any more events, no more birthdays, no more nothing. Like, don't ask me. I don't want to go. Like, I don't want to be treated that way when I've never done anything wrong to that person. And this is where we're at. So then that started a lot of arguments and fights. He felt like I was isolating him from his family. Mind you, I never told him he couldn't go. I just said, I will not be going, and nor will my kids. I don't want to be a part of it. So increasingly, his drinking kept going and going and going, where some nights he would be plastered and just be pissed and wake me up telling me what a bitch I am, that I'm isolating him from his family, and I'm not letting him be a part of his family, that they all miss him and the girls, but it's because of me why they can't have a relationship. And I felt like that's pretty shitty because I never said you couldn't have a relationship. Nevertheless, even the next year, Christmas came around, I did the same thing. I bought all the kids gifts. I was not going to go there, but they got to take all the kids their gifts and give them to their cousins, which I did not get to see or was a part of. And again, nothing was given to my kids in return. I don't expect anything. Like, I really don't. But I, again, thought it was pretty crappy considering I tried a second year to be a part of this family, and they yet again rejected me and my kids. So after that Christmas, I was like, I'm not even going to try anymore. Like, why should I? Like, they're not trying at all. So his drinking increased even more. And he would stay up till 3 or 4 in the morning, and then come into bed being drunk and just start yelling at me. For a while I'd be like, what the hell is your problem? Stop yelling at me. But when I did that, he would get louder, and then all the boys would be in the room trying to figure out what's going on, because he's sitting here yelling at me, cussing at me, calling. So I learned not to say anything to him when he was in those drunken states, and I would just literally physically lay there listening to him call me these names, say these things about me or to me, but I didn't want it to be a bigger ordeal, because I knew the moment I did, there was going to be yelling, and then the boys are going to get involved, and I didn't want that. I was trying to shelter them for anything that I can. As his drinking continued and got worse, there was some nights where he would come in and be like, I want to have sex. And I'm like, I'm not having sex with you. You are drunk. You're being mean. Like, I don't want any part of this. And he would go on and tell me I didn't have a fucking choice. I'm his wife, and it's my job to lay there and fucking spread my legs and let him. For quite a while, I would just argue with him about it and tell him, no, I'm not doing that. And then I finally gave up, because I was like, I knew if I just don't say anything and just let him do what he wants, he'll roll over and he'll still be shit talking, but it's not going to be a huge fight or a huge ordeal. So that continued on for a few months, and I was feeling so lost and so broken. Like, how did I get to this relationship where it was this way? Like, he was very, I'm the wife, I'm the woman, so all these things are my responsibility. Whether it's providing that for him, or whether it was I needed to do the laundry, I needed to clean the kitchen, I needed to cook. Mind you, half the time I was getting home way after him, and still needing to do all these things. And it was getting super overwhelming. Like, I got super sick of the sexist comments all the time, and the degrading comments all the time. And so it kept causing, his drinking kept getting worse, and I called him out on it one night, and it turned into a huge fight. And he informed me that he was going to leave. And I was like, you can't drive, like, you're drunk. I don't care how much fighting we are. I'll go sleep on the couch. You can sleep in the bed. I'm not gonna, you're drunk. You're not driving. And there was many nights where he would just pass out and be somewhat okay. But the driving was not something I wanted to deal with. And so I would try to keep him from the drinking and the driving, but it would cause more of a fight. A few times he would call the cops on me, telling them that I'm being crazy and he wants me out of his house. But come to find out, when the cops would get there, they'd be like, oh, great. Like, he's drunk, he's the one's out of crazy or out of sorts and out of his mind, and she's perfectly sober and fine. Like, and the things he would say to the cops, it was very apparent where the issue was, then it wasn't me. And that happened quite a few different times, of him bringing the cops in, which was embarrassing in itself, super hard. And so here's where my behavior started changing. After a couple of years of us doing this, I started being not as nice, and I would say things to him that probably crossed the line and made it more my fault of why he reacted, because I knew he is the type of person to react to anything that somebody says. And so, I would tell him he's a drug addict, telling, that he's a piece of shit. Should I have been? No. I should not have been. I should have just kept my mouth shut. But I actually started sticking up for myself and calling him out on it. And when there was a span in there for a few months where he would leave and come back the next day at like 8 or 9 in the morning, and I'd be like, where were you? What's going on? And and he would tell me, I've been out doing coke all night. And I'm like, okay, cool. So not only are you a drug addict, but now you're doing hard drugs. This is not good. And he would always tell me, I'm sorry, I know, I need help, I'm gonna get help, I'm gonna go to AA, I'm gonna get clean, I'll change. And I always believed him. I always tried to give him a benefit of doubt. And so I kept forgiving him when he would do things like that. Mind you, it wasn't just me he would pick fights with. He would pick fights with the boys. He would pick fights with the girls. Like, it just depended on who was his target or who pissed him off that week or said something that he didn't like. And sometimes it would get pretty brutal. There was a few times he would get in the boys' face and shove them to the ground, tell them to get up, like, you want to be a fucking man, come on, let's fight, and that was his way of masculinity, I guess. I don't know. And many times I would butt in and break it up and be like, this is fucking stupid, you're supposed to be the adult. It always ended up with him taking off because, he felt like I betrayed him because I took the boys' side. And I told him, I will always take my kids' side over yours. That's just the way it is. Like, you're the grown adult. You have yourself to hold accountable. And, my kids are still kids. So, however, like when his oldest daughter would get in my face and yell and scream at me, like, I was expected just to take it and not say anything and not parent her. There was a few times where I did, though, and a few times, like, the major time was she was watching some inappropriate shows, and I decided, because I paid for Netflix, I blocked anything that was adult rated. When she figured that out, she was pretty pissed and threw the remote across the room and told me I'm not her fucking mom. I'm a fucking cunt. I told her to go to her room. I didn't want to fucking see her. Like, she needed to get out of here. I went and asked my ex to get her because she was not listening at all. And he told me, she'll be fine, I'm just going to take her to her mom's. And I said, no, that's not how that works. You need to hold her accountable for her behavior. Tell her to go to her room until you're ready to take her to her mom's. I don't want to be around her, and that's not fair. I shouldn't have to hide in my room. Like, I pay for half of the bills here. She needs to go to her room. And he was dead set on he was not going to. So I went back out there and I told her, you're going to your room whether you want to or not. So I put my hands out so that I did not physically touch her, and I start walking towards her to make her go to her room. The moment I did that, she grabbed me by my hair and started hitting me. We ended up on the ground, and through all of this, I was not about to put my hands on her other than restraining her. So I restrained her to get her to stop. In that clip, which I may or may not share, in that clip, you can hear her yelling at me, telling me it's my fault. I didn't keep her in counseling. She needs the counseling. She's having a hard time. She's having a hard time. I'm not protecting her, which anyone who knows my ex and his baby mama, they don't believe in counseling. They don't believe in a lot of that. In his eyes, the moment someone opens up to a counselor, they're going to get all their gun rights taken away. Like, it was such a bad thing, but she needed it. For whatever reason, he would not allow that. So I kind of allowed her and showed her the way to be able to do counseling. And because she was 13 at the time, so she had the right to do it herself without her parents' permission. And I did help her. Again, probably not a good idea to go behind their backs, but I did. She was struggling and she needed an outlet, and I was trying to give it to her. After that fight, the girls' mom called the cops on me and tried to say that I assaulted her and she wanted me arrested. Thankfully, I have cameras around the house, so I did show the cops the camera, and it did prove otherwise. And And they asked me, hey, do you want us to arrest her? Because she technically assaulted you. And I said, nope, she just needs help. Like, I'm not going to do that to her. She's struggling, and there's a lot of changes in her life. And I wasn't willing to put her in that situation. So I declined. After that, the girls' mom would not allow the girls to come over at all. And that was for like a good year and a half before I finally, almost 2 years, a year and a half before I finally was like, okay, I'm out of here, I'm leaving. But she would not allow the girls to come over. She basically said that the girls hated me and that I assaulted her daughter. With that, my ex started getting even more depressed, and so he started becoming more violent, more vocal, more drinking, more drugs. And the only way that I thought would help is I would start recording him when he was in these episodes and show him the next day, be like, look, this is what you're doing. Because half the time he'd be like, I don't remember. So I started recording and like having him listen and watch himself. And therefore, at first it started working, and then after that it was, you're recording me without my consent, you're doing this, you're doing that. And I was like, I'm trying to show you how you're behaving when you're drunk and the things you're saying to me, because you can't take them back. But it ended up backfiring, because in his eyes I was doing something he didn't approve of, and he didn't want to see that side of him. He didn't want to admit he had a problem, which nobody does, and I get that. But I was making him and forcing him to see the issues that were arising. Now, with that, I'm not innocent. I started more poking the bear, and I will be the first to admit it. I knew what would trigger him, whether it be we're watching football and he's rooting for the Seahawks. I would always root for the other team. When it came to the election, he was voting for Trump, and I would say that I'm going to vote for Hillary, and I knew that would set him off. But later, when he was drinking, that's when that part of him would come out, and he would be pissed and use it against me and go off and saying how I'm a liberal, I'm a whore. That was his favorite thing to do, is call me a whore. I am messing up his relationship with his daughters. Like, whatever he can choose, he would yell at me about. This continued on, and he kept involving the boys. At one point, they had gotten a deer, and he took the head carcass and put it on my oldest's doorstep. So when they walked out, there's a dead carcass right there. Mind you, he didn't do any of this sober. So all of his behaviors have always been mainly when he's drunk. But he would do that to them. And then a few times when they were out hanging out, he would get drunk and he would say something to one of the boys and tell them they should man up. And that would cause a fight to where they started getting physical, or Brian would push them down on the ground, whatever it may be. And it would cause more drama and more fights. And I would get involved and try to shut it down quick, which caused issues for him and I. It continued that way, and I started spiraling down. I didn't feel like I can talk to many of my friends. The few friends that I tried to talk to that I thought were my best friends, early on started saying they didn't want to be a part of the drama, that I was just causing too much drama, my life is too much chaos. So I didn't feel like I could go to any of them. So I started becoming depressed. My anxiety was through the roof. I started seeing a counselor. My doctor started me on medications and tried to help me. At one point, I felt suicide was my only way out of this situation. I didn't know what to do. I just knew I couldn't be in this life. I even made sure my kids would be taken care of even if I was gone. Like, I was struggling really hard. And no matter how much my counselor and my doctor would try to help me, like, I still felt so alone. Like, I didn't have any of my friends, and none of them really understood, nor did any of them, I feel, wanted to listen to me, especially the two that were the closest to me at the time. Finally, with some heavy encouragement from my doctor, actually, and one of my close friends that I had become friends with closer because we had been sharing a common thing, which was goats. she started helping me, like really bringing to light some of my behaviors, because I would send her some of the videos and of what was going on, and you know, she would tell me, you need to get out, you need to get out, this is not safe. But I didn't feel like I could go anywhere. Finally she started getting through to me, and I started sticking up for myself. There's one night in particular, he was super drunk and came in, just yelling at me that I ruined his life and his daughters are no longer here because of me, because I'm a horrible bitch. And I stood up for myself. I got in his face, right back in his face, because he was in my face, and I just turned around and stood up, and I was like, you know what? Your daughters are not here because you don't know how to fucking parent them. You don't know how to hold them accountable. You don't know how to put them in their place and get them to stop behaving this way. This has nothing to do with me. It has to do with you being a bad parent and their mom being a bad parent and not doing anything that they should be doing. At that moment, he headbutted me so hard that it split open my nose right here. The bill of his hat hit right here. And the boys rushed in because they heard everything that was going on, and they're like, what is going on? You know, there's blood coming down your nose, what happened? And he tried to tell them I scratched myself, that I did it to myself to try to frame him. And of course nobody believed that at all, considering my makeup was still on his hat, on the bill of his hat. So at that point I realized, now this is starting to, after that I knew it wasn't a good idea for us to stay. Like, things were getting way worse, and it wasn't healthy for any of us, and wasn't healthy for me, trying to put on this show, acting like I'm perfectly fine when things were going really wrong behind closed doors. And then out of the blue, his dad went to my oldest son and said, hey, ask your mom how much money it's going to take for her to leave and just get out of the house. And at first I was like, are you kidding me right now? Like, I've put so much money into this house as well. You know, it's my money that went into a lot of things and developed everything on the property, like including taking all the trees down. You know, it wasn't his money. He didn't have money. So I was really upset. And then I really sat back and I was like, okay, maybe this is what I need to do. I need to go, because this isn't working. So I did make a trip to go to Arizona and check it out and see if I even something I like. And at that point I decided, okay, yep, I'm gonna go. Like, it's time for us to go. Things are not safe. And we made the move. Mind you, there's a lot more in there that I can go into even more details. I'm not innocent in any of this. I will be the first to say I definitely antagonized him to get a reaction out of him towards the end. And I definitely started standing up for myself, which was not beneficial either. But I think for the sake of the kids' privacy, I'm not going to post any videos of them and some of the behaviors there. I will post one video that will show you a little bit of what I went through, where you can also hear the other side too, where you can hear me not exactly being nice or saying anything nice to him, just showing both sides, showing that I wasn't innocent in all of it. There is hundreds of actual videos. I'm obviously not going to show all those videos. Some of them are very damaging, and that's not my intent. So here we go.
All the recordings, and as soon as I start recording, it'll leave, right? What the fuck are you trying to do?
As soon as you walk out that door and drive away, you'll get arrested for DUI. You're drunk as shit.
What are you trying to do to me? Trying to get me to leave?
No, trying to get you to get your life together.
No. This doesn't do anything for me. This doesn't do anything good. It only does negative.
That's your problem. You're an alcoholic. You're a druggie.
You're an evil fucking bitch is what you are.
That's fine.
Evil bitch. That's what you are. You're trying to fuck me over for nothing. You know why I drink? Because of you.
You were drinking way before me. You would leave your young children at the bar in order to go get drunk. This was way before me.